Hello, people. Today I'm going to show you five different tactics to improve your middle game and end game. The first tactic we're going to be looking at is called the pin. The pin is one of the most common tactics in chess. Let's look at this first position. I'll give you like 3 seconds to figure out the move. If you say bishop a3, then you're right. This is what's called a pin. A pin make sure that the rook can't move away from the square, because if the rook moves away, then the king is under check. So the rook is forced to stay there, and black has to move something else. Then you can take this rook for free. That's basically how a pin works. I'll show you another example. This is another position in the endgame, and the pin is over here. This gives you a fundamental understanding of the pin. You, a pin occurs anywhere in chess, whether it be the opening, endgame, or middle game. So that's the first tactic. Now let's move on to the second tactic. This is called the fork. A fork happens when one piece is attacking two different pieces of higher value or equal value. Here's an example. In this position, the knight is forking the king and the queen. So since the king is in check, the king is forced to move and black loses the queen. That's how a fork works. You attack two different pieces at once. Here's a real game example. So this is one of the most common forks in chess. A lot of players forget to protect this pawn. This enables white to play this. This is a fork to the king and the rook. And now black is forced to move away the king and lose the rook. This is how a fork works. Now let's move on to the third tactic. Now I'm going to show you a discovered attack. A lot of players don't know about this. This is what's called a discovered attack. When I move the knight, notice that my rook is attacking black's queen, and black is in check. So black is forced to move the king, and now I take black's queen. A discovered attack happens when you move one of your piece out of the way to discover an attack on the opponent's pieces. In this case, you move the knight out of the way to discover this attack. Let me show you another example. This I personally used many times. I'll show you this. This is how one of my games went. E4, E5, knight F3, knight F6. This opening is called the Petrov's defense. In the Petrov, some players don't know the theory, so they might play this. This is actually a huge blunder because notice how my queen is on the same line as the black king. So wherever I move the knight, the king will be under check. So I played this. This not only attacks the black queen, but also puts the black king in check. And the only way to stop this check is either to go like this, or like this. The king can't move anywhere. And no matter what happens, I'll win the black queen. This is one of the common opening traps. Let's move on to the next tactic. This is called the skewer. The skewer happens when you attack more than one piece that's in a row or in a diagonal. In this case, white plays bishop f3. Bishop f3 attacks the queen and the rook in the same time because the bishop looks at both of them. So if the queen moves, the bishop wins the rook. And if the rook moves, the bishop wins the queen. So that's what a skewer is. I'll show you a second example. So pause for a moment and try to find the skewer. If you say queen f8, you're right. By putting my queen here, not only am I looking at the black king, but I'm also looking at the black queen. So when the king moves away or takes my pawn, I'll win the queen. Make sure to be aware of these tactics, especially in the endgame. It happens a lot in the endgame. Now let's look at the last tactic. This tactic is called an X-ray. An X-ray happens when you're protecting your piece through one of your opponent's pieces. For example, I put my queen over here. You might be thinking black could just take my queen. But after black takes my queen, I have this move. And my rook is protecting this pawn. And my rook is actually protecting my queen through this rook. So after that, the king moves and I win the game here. That's what an X-ray is. I'll show you a more simpler example. So in this position, white plays queen f8. The rook protects the queen through the black rook. So after the black rook takes, this rook will take and deliver checkmate. That's what an X-ray is. I hope you are able to use all these five tactics in your game and improve your chess. Good luck.